Good morning friends, myself Amit, and let us begin the Hindu analysis for 18th of August 2020. Okay, so sorry for the delay today. Now we have changed the time for the Hindu analysis and it will be from now on at 11 a.m. daily. Okay, so let us begin with our first topic of the day, which is the contempt of court to be decided. Okay, the Supreme Court has decided under the three judges bench under Mr. Arun Mishra the manner in which the corruption allegations could be made public against a judge would be decided. Okay, so in this scenario they wanted to decide that under what circumstances the statements of corruption can be given in public against a sitting or a retired judge, so that a fair criticism does not amount to contempt, as it was done in the case of Mr. Prashant Bhushan. The case here is that a proper procedure is to be laid down in which how the statements of corruption could be made against a judge, what would be the procedure of investigation, and how the things would proceed, how a chance would be given to a judge. Okay, and this three judge bench is taking a cue from 1992 judgment by the then Justice J.S. Verma, okay, who has given a constitutional judgment, constitutional bench under Mr. J.S. Verma, which was concerned with this removal of Justice V. Ramaswamy, a Supreme Court judge then in 1992. And he said, under this judgment, he said that a fair chance should be given to a judge before the investigation proceedings or the inquiry begins. And this inquiry was to be done or is to be done, this all is under that judgment, right? So this inquiry is to be done under the Judges Inquiry Act 1968. Okay, this Judges Inquiry Act of 1968, and this very act of 1968 requires the President of India to take the advice of Supreme Court Chief Justice, right, for appointment of new judges, right? And it is a very tight-held process, kind of very high-handed, limited circle. It has very limited circle to conduct the inquiry, and very few things are made public. Okay, and the argument they gave for this dominating spirit of this judgment is that to preserve the right, interest and dignity of the judge, right? So they are dealing, this was the 1992 judgment, and this has been the basis for the present bench who is trying to lay down kind of new procedure. Okay, what they are reviewing, the new branch is reviewing that under what circumstances the judicial corruption statements could be made public, and the procedure, what procedure could be adopted if a judge is found corrupt. Okay, what kind of proceedings could be done, and when some matter is sub judice, what kind of information could be leaked or released in public media, so that the dignity of the judiciary could be maintained. Okay, so in opinion of few lawyers and judges like Mr. Rajiv Dhawan, the advocate Rajiv Dhawan, a senior advocate, in his opinion, this process of inquiry is quite complex, quite opaque, and it should be made more transparent. He says that the idea that a critic cannot go to press is a bad decision. Okay, which was given in that 1992 judgment, because freedom of expression given under Article 19(1)(a) is very much a fundamental right, and though reasonable restrictions are there, but in the dignity of judiciary cannot be the cause or cannot be a reasonable restriction on this fundamental right. Okay, a fair amount of criticism should be accepted by judiciary as well, and many former judges, sitting judges, advocates, bureaucrats have come recently to support the cause of Mr. Prashant Bhushan for criticizing the fair criticism of judiciary, which should not amount to this contempt under the Contempt of Court Act of 1971. Okay, even the former even the person Lord Dennis who formed this 90 Contempt of Court Act in 1968, he also said that this very act is not the basis for dignity. Okay, this dignity clause is not the basis for this dignity clause for judiciary, though it provides a reasonable restriction on freedom of expression, but freedom of speech is above this dignity context, right? So yes, this process should be made more accountable, and it should be made more fair, so that people could lay their trust in judiciary, which has been decreasing due to reduced level of accountability of the judiciary. Okay. Then in a recent judgment by a Supreme Court, actually a few students filed a petition to delay these NEET and JEE exam, and in a recent order from Supreme Court, they have rejected this plea of delay. Okay, and the argument that Supreme Court has given that COVID-19 may extend over a year from now, and this, if we delay the exam for over 1 year, this could lead to the loss of country and career perils for many students. Okay, the country would lose the upcoming talent, and the career peril for many students would occur. So this is not fair, and we now have to learn how to live with COVID-19. And yes, we need to on this recording of proper safety arrangements for the candidates by the concerned authorities. The recorded statement from those concerned authorities have been taken, and on this basis the Supreme Court has allowed them to take these exams in September as scheduled for now. Okay, and yes, the government should take a balanced approach, as recently what happened on last Sunday, there was this BEO exam, Block Education Officer, in Uttar Pradesh. Okay, and on last Sunday there was another exam, UP B.Ed UP B.Ed exam, and in both these exams what we have seen that quite rush or crowd was there in cities, in metro cities in UP, and this has led to rise in the number of cases, rise in COVID-19 cases in UP. So proper steps need to be taken by the government, proper steps. Okay, also the people should take responsibility of their own safety, so that a balanced approach could be taken, and we could revive back, we could come back from the effect of COVID-19 and could learn to live with this until a solution comes. Okay. The next topic we are going to discuss is, it is a kind of example for you, and especially I have taken this to be given in GS paper 4 or GS paper 2, right? This is the GS paper 2 is about polity and all, and GS paper 4 is all about ethics, right? So this I wanted to take this as an example, especially when we see that the corruption cases among the politicians are rising, the amassment of wealth is rising. So here we have example to quote of Mr. Manohar Randhari, who is an MLA from Biju Janata Dal in Odisha, from this Dabugam seat. Okay, from this Dabugam seat, and he spends 2 months of his entire year in doing this agriculture. Okay, and not only he earns from agriculture, but also he donates, kind of distributes his produce, right? He keep aside 10 quintals of milled rice to be cooked and provided for those who visit him. So we should learn from these MLAs, should become example, so that people who are moving away from this non-lucrative agriculture sector could be drawn back, and the sector which is being the driving sector in today's economic crisis of COVID-19. Okay, in this case, this sector should be given more emphasis, and more technology should be brought into this sector, so that overhaul of this sector could take place. And when people like politicians, they come under this sector, they do such jobs, they ensure that they would learn, their experience would tell them to decide on, to make laws for the better linkages, okay, the post-farm and pre-farm linkages, Okay, so they can decide, they can make better policies, they can decide on better ways. Okay, that's it for this topic, and this is a kind of example for okay ethics paper. Then this is the topic of ashas. Okay, asha, these are the frontline health workers in India, okay, along with the auxiliary nurse midwives, okay, and anganwadi workers. So they are called accredited social health care workers. Okay, so the work of ASHA is their work includes screening pregnant women, lactating mothers, as well as children for communicable and non-communicable diseases, vaccination, care during pregnancy and childbirth, among others. Okay, so these are some works allotted to ASHA, the frontline workers like these midwives or nurses in India, and this is to improve our primary healthcare sector. Okay, primary health infrastructure is in their hands. So what's the news? The news is that recently their 2G SIMs have been cancelled or kind of closed, and they have been allotted new 4G SIM cards. But the problem comes when they do not have the smartphones to use those 4G SIM cards. Okay, and this has created a kind of cut for the communication cut for them. Okay, now they are unable to use their new SIM cards, and their old ones are now closed. So they have come to strike. Okay, more than 20,000 ASHA workers have come to strike in state of Haryana, saying that with the salary, actually they are given this 4,000 rupees of salary. Okay, with several incentive based salary. Okay, incentive based salary, but in this wake of pandemic, this incentive based salary is totally done out. Okay, is now not available, and this 4,000 rupees salary is also given after delay. Okay, because of this economic crisis. So these ASHA workers, they claim that they do not have enough affordability. They can't afford this smartphone. So they are unable to utilize the new 4G SIM cards which have been given to them. And the purpose of giving them these 4G SIM cards is to better trace, okay, is the additional responsibilities along with their original work is that to trace the data of childbirth, death, trace the suspects of COVID-19, give information about their location based on GPS. Okay, so these were some extra work for online data collection with the help of ASHA workers. So the government, which has promised them to give them smartphone in 2019, have still not delivered on their promise, and still there is some procurement problem in that scenario. In this scenario, the problem is that ASHA workers are unable to fulfill their duties, and the government is lagging to fulfill their promises, and this kind of incoordination among both has created a gap, and this need to be filled because I want to quote a data here which has been presented by this ORB media regarding this community health workers. They say that countries which have better community health worker programs have better health status, because such community health worker program help better penetration of health infrastructure to deeper remote areas, locations, to the poor, and leads to equitable distribution of health services. Okay, this improves the condition of poor, right? So this has been a detailed data. They say that CHWs, or the community health worker, enable equitable access. They increases the survival rate of infants, that is the below 5 children, the children below the age of 5. Their survival rate increases. Also the social indicators, infant mortality rate and mother mortality rate, comes down at very significant rate with rise in number of CHW workers, right? CHWs. And they have also rated several countries on the scale of 1 to 5, 1 being very good, on the basis of this model of community health worker programs. And they say that The Bangladesh, Chile and Honduras, Mexico, Hungary and Argentina. Okay, these are the numbers given 1, 2, 3, and they say that these countries have done very good, okay, in terms of this community health worker programs, and the India could also do better, as we know that more than 62% of the people in India go for private sector healthcare services, right? 70% is the out of pocket expenditure in cases, okay. So to reduce this number, okay, these are the data from World WHO, and to reduce these percentage and provide with our national health mission target of universal, accessible and affordable healthcare system, community healthcare workers are must, and these can provide us with better personal infrastructure, which is definitely needed for India, especially in this COVID-19 pandemic scenario. Okay, so we need to give them more incentive. The pending salary revises should be done so that better services could be provided not only to these ASHA workers but also these midwives, these auxiliary nurse midwives, Anganwadi workers, so that the services could penetrate further. Okay. Okay, then we should move towards the next topic in this case here, which is about New Zealand postpones the poll to fight election to fight the second wave of coronavirus. Okay, we have seen that this after the start of COVID-19 in China, it has created a kind of very worse condition in many countries. Okay, more than 7.5 lakh people have died. Okay, and there has been this more than 20 million infections. Even India has witnessed 2.6 million infections till now. Okay, and the grim situation is that we have crossed this 50,000 deaths. Okay, India has crossed this 50,000 mark, 50,000 deaths. So this shows that the condition is quite grim under this pandemic, and to fight these, a solidarity, a kind of committed move is required. Various governments across the world have taken various steps. Talking about New Zealand, they after 102 days, New Zealand was the first country, as was claimed by many media houses or news reports, that it was the first country to end the COVID-19 pandemic in its whole. But after 102 days, there were the cases, the COVID-19 cases have arisen again, and these cases are around 96 in number. They have risen to this figure of 96 in the city of, I think, Auckland. Okay, and this 96 number has created a tussle or kind of problem for this Auckland to let the city go into lockdown again. Okay, and now the president, the Prime Minister of New Zealand, Jacinda Ardern, she wants to delay the election. The reason is that the elections are due in September, and many people might not come out to vote. Okay, this would lead to reduction in the voting participation by people, and would create reduce the fairness of election, right? Would reduce the fairness of election. Also, the huge amount of cost involved in elections would be required, and which could be siphoned off to the dealing with COVID-19 pandemic for the time being. Okay, and also the Election Commission and other political parties, as claimed by Mr. Prime Minister, are not very much ready. So she says that if we can extend the time, everyone would get a room, a space, okay, for to get ready for the coming elections, and people could be more sure of voting, which would ensure the fairness of elections, right? And not only New Zealand, there has been news of election postponement in countries like South Korea, we have seen. Okay, but South Korea did very well. Then Mr. Trump is also asking for postponement of election, and there has been some pro and cons. Okay, there has been statements from both sides, that from Mr. Trump says that COVID-19 pandemic is the problem, and he wanted the election to be shifted, while the people and the opposition, they are not very much in confirmation with Mr. Trump, as his dealing of COVID-19 is not very good as claimed by those opposition. Okay. And also there has been problems in countries like Japan. In the wake of this COVID-19, I am discussing various countries having various problems. And like this, New Zealand is having the problem of polls. Okay, economic slowdown has been seen worldwide. Recently we have witnessed that Japan in its first quarter has contracted by 7.8%. We have seen a similar figure for UK for a month, which has seen the contraction of 20%. US saw a contraction of 39%, though not on quarter terms, it was I think on monthly terms, right? So we have seen a quite large, even for India, SBI, as a report from SBI claims that India could witness 16.5% contraction in its first quarter. It is a report today only. Okay, so these kind of reports present a very grim picture, and what we need to take such steps, a kind of collective steps, so that the world can fight the COVID-19 pandemic. Okay, and these steps are very much necessary for us to deal with the pandemic. Now discussing about Belarus, a few days back I discussed this Lukashenko. Okay, Mr. Lukashenko in Belarus, he was elected as the president of Belarus. He was serving as president for 2 decades back. Okay, I think 26 years. So the problem has been that Mr. Lukashenko has been ruling high-handedly. He has been detaining the he has been detaining the YouTubers, the media members, journalists, those who are in opposition parties. He has been detaining all of them continuously for months. And even the opposition party leader, Ms. Svetlana Tikhanovskaya, has been also fled, and she is now in exile in Lithuania, the neighboring country. Okay, so now what has happened recently? What has happened that people has come out to protest against him. The Belarus have Soviet model working factories where the leaders go for seeking support. So similarly, Mr. Lukashenko went for such a factory in Belarus where he was seeking support from the workers. Okay, the workers, which are very much part of socialist regimes, right? So the large scale protest at the factory led Mr. Lukashenko to come down, and he said that he is ready for a referendum now. Seeking the scale of protest, he said that he is ready for the referendum now in Belarus, and he would not do under the pressure of protesters on street or under the leader of opposition. But he would only do a referendum, and if the referendum of people say so, he would shift the constitutional power readily. Okay, and then people could hold or the parliament could hold re-elections. Unless then, he is not going to hold the elections, right? So it was only a kind of pacification for the people who are protesting against him. Let me give you a kind of geopolitical scenario in the region. What has happened? This is Russia, this is Belarus, and you can mark it as Europe, rest of Europe. So Russia has been supporting Belarus for its cause, okay, and the ruler has been very much in ties with Russia, having quite good relations with Mr. Putin. And Russia has been supporting, and Russia has even given them support to a level that even if there is external aggression, Russia would send military for the support of Mr. Lukashenko. Okay, so the people have turned against Mr. Lukashenko, and the reason was, you might see a similar situation in a web series called Jack Ryan, okay, which was based on Venezuela. So what happened here? The people are very much against the leader, and they have supported Svetlana, Miss Svetlana, who is the opposition leader, and it seems that the elections were rigged, in which recently Mr. Lukashenko won. So the problem is, European Union wants Mr. Lukashenko to take re-elections or a referendum or give something to people. Otherwise, the European Union could create those sanctions, could levy sanctions on Belarus. So people are protesting that they are already under economic crisis, and such sanctions would further decline the economy. Okay, so the European Union wants kind of reform, and Russia is supporting, because this Belarus is a buffer zone for Russia for their pipelines, oil pipelines towards Europe, and buffer zone against the NATO group. Okay, the military group of Western Europe and America. So this Belarus is a point of geopolitical strategy for Russia and Europe. So not only the local factors are into play, but the regional powers have also come into play in this Belarus election. So the thing is that people are not getting their due of fair elections. Okay, and the ruler seems to be taking the elected autocracy, manner of elected autocracy. So the crux here is that yes, a referendum should be done, and Lukashenko should be asked to take this referendum as soon as possible, so that this problem could be solved, right? And the protesters could only be pacified with this. Okay, then next topic is about Australia's tax, or the compensation, Australia's rule for compensation to media businesses for news content. So with the new draft law in Australia, they have asked giants like Google and Facebook to pay for the news services to the media houses in Australia. So against this law, Google has come out with an open letter to Australians, claiming to the public that such a draft would create problem for the Google and Facebook, and then people might have to pay for the news services. Okay, and their data might get siphoned to commercial media companies. So Google is saying that you could have two kind of losses. One, you would have to pay to the Australians. One, you would have to pay for the news services on our platform, and even for the other services with the time, like YouTube. And the second thing is, your data might be at risk with the commercial media houses. The reason here is that the law requires the platforms like Google to share the information of news search with the commercial media houses. So, and one of the watchdog Rod Sims, the chair of Australian Competition and Consumer Commission, he says that the draft law is good enough and the Google's letter contain misinformation. He says, as per him, he says that the services of Google are for free and it depends only on Google to charge them or not. This law has nothing to do with this. While the Google says that this is beyond their control and they might have to charge for the services, and the money could be siphoned to commercial media companies. So it has created a tussle. And the problem is genuine, because many of the these media houses, they are under pressure because of this free news, right? Because of this free news, and they has created a kind of crisis for them. So a balanced approach is required in this also, as those who are creating the news with high efforts need to be given their due, and the platforms like Google and Facebook should come out with a better solution rather than these kind of luring public. Okay, and the government and these giants should come on a platform to discuss such issues, right? The next topic we are discussing here is this job losses in India. And as per this, the competition, LinkedIn is a platform where the job kind of professional platform, business platform, where both the job seekers and employers come. And they have said, with the recent report from LinkedIn, which is this labor market update, they have showed that the competition for a job has been doubled in past 6 months. Earlier, before 6 months, there was a 90 applications for a job, but now they have increased to 180. Okay, the sectors which have heard most are this travel and recreation sectors, and people here are looking for jobs in another sector. Okay, the pandemic and the following lockdown economic crisis have led more people to shift towards better paying jobs, because either they have lost their jobs or their salaries have cut. Okay, so they have a salary cut. So they say that the competition has increased, and also there is a statement. This is a news from Economic Times where Mr. Birla is saying that in 2020 recession, Indian economy may face negative growth rate, which would be a first such instance in last 4 decades, as India has been growing with positive growth rate, and we have been witnessing around 8%. Even in recent years we were growing with this 8% annual growth rate, and now this economic crisis due to this COVID-19 could lead to contraction in financial year 21 itself, leading to job losses or salary cuts. So we hope that Indian economy could revive soon, and this global slowdown due to this COVID pandemic could be reversed, and global economy could come on track. And the lessons we should learn, that our mode of development might not be the right mode, might not be the right way, and with this we should aim towards a better sustainable economic development. Okay, so that such kind of problems could be avoided. And on this positive note, I would like to thank you for the day.